This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, there he is. Get it loaded, locked and loaded. I want to see those fantasy football questions flying in as Scott Pianowski is ready to go. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm doing great. You're trying to wash the stink off of another Thursday night game that came in under expectations. Thankfully, most of us didn't have Washington or Chicago players that were needed. Also, that segment right before I came on, just talking about all that food, man, made me hungry too. Made me ready for a burger, or that spread you were describing sounded great.
Oh God, yes. The Larry Little get together every year. Oh my God.
It's tied to the great Miami Dolphins lineman, right?
Yes, yeah, and he has a fundraiser and a golf tournament, and he does the fundraiser at a casino racetrack that is part of they're one of our sponsors, Hialeah Park.
Oh, sure, the great Hialeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. I mean, it's been around forever, and dude, they have pictures of Winston Churchill watching races there.
I grew up around racetracks, right? I used to just listen to these guys. Friend of mine. Two twins I was good friends with. Their father would take us to the track, and I'd listen to these people chomping on cigars, wearing fedoras, and I didn't understand half of what they were saying, but I just like listening to them. Right. Like I could listen to the late great Burt Sugar talk about anything. I don't even know anything about boxing really. I just like listening to people talk about it. Oh. So there was just an elegance to the track. It was just a really fun. I had I'm not gonna say I won any money there, but I had a lot of fun at the racetrack.
Just so you'll know, I am so blessed in my life. I got to hang out with Burt Sugar.
Oh, awesome.
Smoke cigars, talk boxing, talk life, listen to his stories. Every time I would go for HBO to go do a boxing match, Burt was always there. And I would bring him on my show.
Love it.
Always to talk a little boxing. And then at night, we would get together, and there would be a get together, and we'd go and dude, it was him talking and I'm smoking and we're just going off and it's just, man, when you get those opportunities to hang out with those specific type of people that have been in our business, it's that was an honor for me, man. It was
he's the type of guy you ask one open-ended question and just sit back and he just talks and you're just happy to listen. When I worked for the Providence Journal, we had a racing writer named Ed Duckworth who was like that. I just like being around him. I didn't even understand everything he was talking about. I just liked the way he said it. There was an elegance, there was a class, there was a panache to him, and Burt Sugar was certainly that type of guy, and I think it's awesome that you knew him.
Oh, God, it was so good. Our conversations, those are things that I will always cherish. Those are things that in my 33, I'm about to complete 33 years. Those are moments that are like, man, this is why I got in the business. These kind of things that you want to experience. All right, folks, you got some fantasy football questions? Send them in right here on the YouTube chat board. We'll pass them on to Scott Pianowski. You can also send them in on our Twitter handle at Big O Show. So if you're cruising around in your car or you're in the office, send them in on Twitter. And, of course, on the Welt and Rayom text line, 855-912-1056. That's 855-912-1056. Rondell Moore. Is he a guy that we should be looking for? And Seattle, they actually have a passing game with Geno. So talk to me a little bit. Where are you looking at with Rondell Moore?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a long-term play because his status will be a little cloudy once they get Hopkins back. But look, he fits what the offense is, right? A low ADOT guy. He's getting a lot of snaps in the slot, active last week. Obviously, with the bye weeks and a lot of offenses that we can't trust right now, Rondell Moore is somebody I can play proactively this week. I think he'd be anywhere I roster him, he'd probably be in my starting lineup.
All right. Best flex option, Joey is asking, J.K. Dobbins, Chris Olave, or Adam Thielen?
All really close because I'm not sure of Olave's health. I'm going to lean towards Dobbins, and I know he didn't look great last week, but he's got the highest floor for touches in that backfield. They're probably not going to have Bateman. It's just such a narrow usage tree for Baltimore that I can easily tell myself a story that Dobbins will touch it 15 times, so he gets the check mark. I'm glad you have Olave, but I'd just like to see him be a little bit healthier. We need New Orleans to solidify their quarterback situation. Let me say something else about New Orleans. Last week, Taysom Hill blew up the game. He's tight end eligible. He's not really a tight end, but he's playing tight end enough in fantasy. He qualifies there in Yahoo and on other platforms. I know his floor is 0. Any week, Taysom Hill could score 0 points, but they give him touches around the goal line. So he's a top 6, top 7 tight end for me at a position that's awful for fantasy. You have my permission. I would play Hill over Kyle Pitts. You'd never draft Hill over Kyle Pitts on a real football team. Right. But Atlanta's got a lot of problems. Mariota can't be trusted. Is Taysom Hill last week is not going to happen again. I get it, but he's in my top 10 at tight end, and I think he's somebody, if you're struggling at tight end, I think Taysom Hill could be one of your answers.
Carlos Segarro saying, I am getting Chase and Waddle for Breece Hall. Yes or no?
That would come down to what your running back depth is. If you had a strong running back room, you could do that. If you didn't, I wouldn't want to trade Breece Hall. That comes down to what the structure of your roster is. There are some teams where that would be a good trade. There's other teams where you couldn't make that trade. So if you feel good about your running backs after Hall, I'll give you the sign off.
And he's a two-way player. He catches passes too. So
he's dynamite.
So be careful there. What you're giving up, a guy that can get you both. And if you're in a PPR, boy, you're cashing in with that guy. So yeah, it's the key, which what you said. It really depends on the depth. Yo Dudis says Miles Sanders, Ayuk, London, or Thielen for my flex spot.
It has to be Sanders. Easier to touch the ball when you're a running back, and they're not using Gainwell or Boston Scott that much. Some of them have been scratched here and there. I get it. Sanders has to compete with Hurts, and every time they run in a touchdown, you'd probably think it was Hurts, but Sanders has had a consistent workload just about every week. I will play him over those receivers, and specifically, Ayuk's hard to trust right now because he's behind the Wilson in the pecking order. He's behind Debo, of course. Kittle's still around, and they want to get a lead and just run the ball. They don't want Jimmy G throwing more than 25 or 30 passes. So I think Ayuk has become somebody who I was proactively starting a month ago. He's more of a bench player for me now.
Okay. Trade. Would you trade away Henry and Waller for James Robinson and Najee Harris? I'm saying no.
No, God, no.
Okay.
The signs, the arrows are pointing in the wrong direction for Robinson. He's been outsnapped by ETN 2 straight weeks. ETN outplayed him last week. Harris is ceding some work to Warren and the backup, and they have a horrible offensive line. Mike Tomlin has never had a sub 500 season. He's going to have it this year. Obviously, a rookie quarterback. Not that Pickett could be much worse than Trubisky. What I would like to do if I had Harris is wait for a big game and then try to trade him. But right now, he's really difficult to trust. He barely made my top 20 at running back, and think about where he was drafted.
I'm with you there. All right. Remember, you can reach out on the Welt and Rayom text line, 855-912-1056. Doesn't matter where you're at. Let's go to it. Here we go. 855-912-1056. Big O, my running back and wide receivers are loaded, but QB is killing me, Russell. And so he says, I have Ramondre at flex and think he can get average 20 in the next month. Have an offer for him, for Kyler. Backups are ETN, Mike T, B-Rob, Boone. Worth it?
Yeah, I would like a deeper running back room than that. Stevenson's a top 10 running back for me any week Harris doesn't play, and it sounds like Harris won't go this week. I'll sign off. Normally, I would say don't trade for a quarterback. There's so many of them, but there aren't that many I trust this year, so I'm okay with trading for a quarterback, but Stevenson would not be the guy I was dangling. There's going to be somebody in your league who does have 2 good quarterbacks. He can't use both of them, and maybe you just have to go down a tier, but that's a little bit too much. Stevenson right now is a lock. He's locked into my top 10.
Ayuk or Amari Cooper or Mostert or Henderson?
Mostert for sure. I mean, even though Henderson outsnapped Akers last week, he still didn't get a carry. I do think Henderson's probably their best back right now, but they don't for whatever reason want to go that route. The thing that worries me about Cooper is you always wonder what Belichick's going to try to eliminate, but maybe the focus will be that great running game. Nick Chubb is terrific. Brissett has been a little bit less than average, but at least he's getting the ball to the people we care about, which is Cooper and Njoku, one of the few tight ends who's playing well. So Cooper would be the first guy I'd use. And I know you wonder what the staying power is with him, but the way he's been used in recent weeks, I can't turn back from that.
Welton Rayom text line 855-912-1056. I get when you guys, and we appreciate the question, but you got to give us more context because he goes, I need a receiver on the wire. Who can I get? Well, we don't know what's available on your wire. You might be an 8-team league, might be a 10-team league, might be a 12-team league, might be a 16-team league. So we have no idea who's available. But give me a name or two that might be available in average leagues for the hell of it.
If you're in a super, super shallow league, I like Jacoby Myers, who will be the heaviest targeted Patriot receiver. If you're in an extremely deep league, and I'll admit right now, this guy could be a total zero. I picked this guy up in some leagues. I may be cutting him in 3 days. But Darius Slayton was back from the dead in London. We know how awful that Giants receiver room is. Robinson's hurt. Tony, they've soured on. He's hurt. Daniel Jones actually been playing pretty well. Somehow this team is 4-1. It's kind of cosmetic. Nobody thinks the Giants are a great team. But Dable's a good coach. Jones has been playing well. They found something with Slayton last week. So Darius Slayton is playing for a couple of my teams. I also wouldn't mind Peoples-Jones in Cleveland. I guess he'd be the medium pickup, where, again, it's a narrow target tree, right? It's Cooper, it's Njoku. Peoples-Jones probably third on that list, but he'll have somewhere between 5 and 8 targets this week. So if you're scrapping at receiver, I could see using him. Also, Alec Pierce should be rostered everywhere. The Indianapolis receiver, 162 yards the last 2 weeks. He may not be available to you. So there's Myers, Pierce, Peoples-Jones, and Slayton. Hopefully one of those guys can help you.
Keenan is asking, Scott, I just traded Devontae Adams and J.D. McKissick for Jonathan Taylor. I am left with Tyreek, Drake, London, D-Hop, and Pickens. Did I win the trade?
I like it. I'm worried that London's going to suffer because the volume is so low for the Atlanta passing game, and Mariota isn't playing very well. But at least Hopkins is coming back soon. It sounded like you had decent depth at receiver, and it sounds like also Taylor will play this week. So, look, Adams is great, and he was great Monday night until he shoved a photographer. I don't know why he did that, but I like the trade for you. I think it probably fits the shape of your roster.
Okay. My running. Oh, wait a minute. Justin Herbert versus Denver or Geno Smith versus Arizona?
I'll play Herbert, but here's a team. Normally, when you have two good quarterbacks, it's like we'll try to trade one. Nobody needs a quarterback. This is a year where people need quarterbacks. Go find the Russell Wilson manager because he's pulling his hair out, or somebody who maybe believed in Justin Fields, or I don't know, a Mac Jones manager. There's all sorts of. Matt Ryan's not playing well. I can go on and on and on with the teams. Maybe somebody has Jared Goff, but he doesn't play this week. Bye week should be your facilitator for trades. It should be much easier to trade for the next 4 or 5 weeks because teams don't play and people in your league are starting to get desperate. So try to trade one of those guys and be open-minded to trading either one of them, by the way. But this week, as far as who to start, I have to use Herbert.
Okay. Is Randall Cobb a good pick?
I think it's just a one and done. I think it's just one of those things we'll laugh. Like, remember Randall Cobb went to London and was great. They still trust Lazard, I think, a little bit more. I still would play Dobbs over him. They didn't throw to the backs last week, but I think that was a mistake that they're going to correct. I think Aaron Jones has a big game against the Jets. So that's just a case where I don't want to chase the points. I don't think Cobb has any staying power.
Okay. Let's see. Flex spot, Devontae Smith, Ayuk, Judy, or Edmonds?
I know, look, receiver's a variance position, and even with that, Devonta Smith is a very heavy boomer bust guy, but it's easier to throw on Dallas than it is to run on them. And I realize they have talent on all 3 levels and a ferocious pass rush, but Smith's just one of those guys you have to play knowing it could be a 95-yard week, it could be a 15-yard week. That's a lot of receivers you could say that about, but the Eagles have an offensive infrastructure I want to bet on, and there aren't that many teams I can say that about.
Okay, we go... Is there any hope for Kyle Pitts and Cam Akers? Oh, God.
Man, not a lot for me. The Rams look broken. I've been saying that Matthew Stafford doesn't believe in 3 things: his offensive line, his secondary receivers, and his own health. And Akers just looks like a guy who's not healthy. I think Henderson, who I think should be rostered in more leagues. Here's some, by the way, we're all struggling at running back, right? I want Henderson on your league roster if you can. I think Kelly in Los Angeles is clearly the backup to Eckler. He's worth adding. Samaje Perine's outplaying Joe Mixon. I wonder at what point Perine could get more involved. Just some guys should be on your roster. But the problem with Pitts is they haven't unlocked him even when they've thrown the ball proactively. And now Arthur Smith has decided, let's play football like it's 1977. Let's throw 20 passes a week. I would play Taysom Hill over Pitts this week. And I know that could look crazy. If Pitts does something that's going to look stupid, I don't care. The Falcons' passing game right now is broken, and the Rams' offense outside of Kupp and maybe a little bit of Higbee, they look broken too.
By the way, you can follow Scott on Twitter at Scott_Pianowski. Make sure you check them out there at Yahoo Sports. They do great work all week long there. All right, Kells is asking Davis, Waddle, or D. Smith.
Oh man, I hate benching Jalen Waddle. I guess it speaks to how much you trust Skylar Thompson. I think I'd still play Waddle. Oh, I'm sorry, Davis. That's Gabe Davis, of course. Gabe Davis would be the first guy I would play. Yeah, 4 touchdown game the last time he played Kansas City. That's not going to happen again. But the thing with Davis is when he's healthy, he's a lock and load guy. He was healthy last week, had a couple of touchdowns, a long touchdown early in that game. I think he's over the physical problems he had earlier in the season. So he'd be the first guy I would use. Waddle would be the second, but it's really close with the second and third one. So many games this week, the totals are in the mid-40s. That Kansas City Buffalo total, I think, is around 54. You get to try to get a slice of that if you can.
Judy versus Dubs or Pierce, start 1 in PPR.
Oh, man, Judy, I just gotta accept Judy's not the player I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be special, maybe a Doug Baldwin type. I don't see it. Wilson's shoulder isn't right now. Pierce is probably the safest floor guy. Dobbs is the most likely to score a touchdown, but I feel better about Pierce for his yardage upside, even though Matt Ryan's hard to trust right now. So nobody on this list I can say is a slam dunk. I would play Pierce slightly over Dobbs, and I think you have to bench Judy until we see Russell Wilson show something, whether it's being crisper in the offense, being more healthy, more proactive to running. I don't know what it is. And why is Seattle on this island game? 4 games in 6 weeks. Big O, how do I unsubscribe from the Denver Broncos network? Because I can't seem to do it. They're always on my television.
I know. It's brutal, man. It's like having to be stuck to watch Thursday night football, too. Thank the Lord the Panthers were playing last night. That really made my night, and obviously Kachuk adding the goal there.
I just traded for Bobrovsky in a keeper league. Although I feel like I have to get Spencer Knight too. Because I think he's going to play a lot, and he might be the starter next year.
Yes.
But the Florida Panthers, man, and I know they've Huberdeau's not there anymore, but they have a great hockey team. I'm excited. In this league, I mean, it's a head-to-head league. You need goaltenders on winning teams. I certainly want to backline bet the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, they're not as deep on the lines because they lost a couple guys, but they did add a star in Kachuk that I think they didn't have that kind of swag in that locker room. They needed a guy like that because while Barkov is top 10, top 20 in the league, easy, one of the best all-around players out there, he's not a rah guy. He's not the guy that's going to jack people up. He's just kind of a ho-hum, go do your job type
does
of guy.
His job quietly. You're right. Kachuk is that guy who just comes in. He's got a little bit of Mark Messier in him, I think, where he immediately, even on a team where he's been there for 10 minutes, it feels like he's the leader of the team. I totally see that.
Yeah, they needed that, and Huberdeau didn't possess that, and neither does Barkov. They needed an alpha in that locker room, and they finally got that alpha that they really needed in the locker room. All right, tell them about Yahoo, man. What are you working on the next couple of days to help us fantasy players out get a victory?
Sure. In about an hour, I'm going to have my week 6 picks for 19-6. I don't know how we've done that because it's really hard to pick games against the spread. I can tell you one of my picks will be the Colts bounce back revenge spot. And also kind of a half bye week, too, for them because they played on Thursday. I'm going to take them over Jacksonville. I'll give you 4 more picks. My sleepers went up on Thursday. My Wednesday piece went up where I talked about bye weeks and how you can leverage them to make trades and whatnot. Sunday, our flagship show at noon, Fantasy Football Live. We'll give you all the last-minute injury information. I'll be on Yahoo Fantasy answering start-sit questions and anything else you need to know about. And as you mentioned earlier, Scott_Pianowski, you're welcome to hit me up anytime. You always have the smartest listeners. I'm always jealous of the questions you're asking me because you guys have these like 4 or 5 players I wish I had on my team. But keep the questions coming. You want to talk sports, music, you want to talk Burt Sugar, you want to talk Hialeah Park. I am here for you, Big O listeners. Great people here, and let's get a win in week 6.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you as always. May the big wins be yours, my friend. We shall catch up next week.
All right. I'll catch you with that burger, and we'll talk soon.
You got it. There you go. Scott Pianowski, baby. And don't forget, at Sports Grill, during football season, $1.50 Bud Light drafts and bottles during NCAA and NFL games. New cocktails, only $5 during NCAA and NFL games, the cherry lemonade and the tailgate tea. $12 domestic pitchers. Bone-in wings are now just 15% off during the games. And they added the buttermilk chicken sandwich, which is just absolutely delicious. They've got the hot sauces available. You can take them home with you. The buffalo sauce, the Miami Heat, the blackberry, the barbecue, the Dale. The Kendall location has those delicious milkshakes every Monday, and they're jamming rock and roll. Or our guy Revis won't go, right? Because it's rock and roll, right? Yeah, I know. And so on Monday, we've got the $7 single smash burger. Tuesdays, the $2 tacos. You can choose from chicken, beef, or fish. And Wednesdays, the kids will eat free with the purchase of an adult entree. And this has been the Sports Grill Fantasy Football Zone.